I signed the consent form with a hand that wouldn't stop trembling. I need your word, he said. You do the surgery and I'll take Oliver. Full custody. I'll sign whatever papers you want. I stared at him. This man I'd married 12 years ago. This man who'd once held my hair back while I vomited during morning sickness with Oliver. This man who'd become a stranger so slowly I hadn't noticed until it was too late. You'll actually take him? My voice came out like sandpaper. You'll be there for him? Adrian's eyes flickered with something, impatience maybe, or guilt. It was hard to tell anymore. I said I would. Because I need to hear you say it. I need to know he won't be alone. He shifted his weight. The fluorescent lights above us made him look older than his 42 years. You're not dying, Chloe. You're not well, but you've been through worse. You always bounce back. I almost laughed. Almost. The sound would have cost me too much energy. Adrian. I said his name carefully, like it was made of glass. I have stage 4 triple-negative breast cancer. It's in my bones now. MY liver. MY brain. I have maybe 2 months. 3, if the new trial works, which it won't. He shook his head, a sharp, dismissive motion. You're a doctor. You've been a doctor your whole life. You've seen patients. Patients di Adrian. Every day. And soon, I'm going to be one of them. The words hung in the air between us, ugly and undeniable. He didn't believe me. I could see it in the way his mouth tightened, the way his eyes went flat. He'd convinced himself this was another manipulation. Another way to punish him for the divorce proceedings he'd started last year but never finished. Another way to keep him from Lucy. Lucy Bennett, 22 years old, fresh out of nursing school. She'd been Adrian's assistant for 3 years now, his confidant, his companion. The woman who'd replaced me in every way that mattered, except on paper. I'd caught them twice. Once at a charity gala, tucked away in a corner of the terrace, her hand on his chest, his head bent toward hers. He told me she was upset about a patient, and he was just comforting her. I believed him then that I was still stupid enough to believe him then. The second time was worse. I'd come home early from a conference to find Lucy in our bedroom, wearing one of my silk robes. She'd been looking for a book, she said. Adrian had been in the shower. When he came out, towel around his waist, he didn't even blink, just told me I was overreacting. That was 2 years ago. I'd moved into the guest room the next week, filed for divorce the month after, but I never pushed it through because I knew he'd take Oliver. He had the money, the lawyers, the connections, and I had nothing but a shrinking body and a child who was already too used to seeing his mother disappear. Lucy's fibroid, Adrian said now, dragging me back to the present. It's benign. You said so yourself. It's an easy surgery. Nothing about surgery is easy. You've done hundreds of them, thousands. You're the best surgeon in this hospital. Flattery. He was actually trying to flatter me. I wanted to scream, but the scream was trapped somewhere in my chest, tangled up with the tumors and the poison, and the 17 years of trying to be enough for a man who'd never wanted enough. He'd wanted everything, and I'd never been everything. I can't do it, I said. I can barely stand. I can't. Chloe. His voice went cold. The flattery was gone. You owe me this. I stared at him. I owe you. I've been patient. I've given you space. I've let you live in the house with Oliver while you've been ill. I could have forced the sale. I could have made this a lot harder on you. Adrian, you left us. You left me and Oliver in that house, and you moved into a penthouse with your 22-year-old girlfriend. You don't get to talk about what you've given me. Lucy is not. He stopped, took a breath. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Shame, maybe, or recognition. Then it was gone, replaced by the cool mask I'd grown to despise. Lucy has a growth in her chest. IT needs to be removed. The other surgeons have all refused. Because it's a simple procedure. Anyone in general surgery could handle it. Lucy doesn't trust anyone else. She's scared. The tumor is near a major artery. She wants someone who cares about outcomes. His voice softened on the last word, just slightly. She wants you, Chloe. I closed my eyes. Lucy Bennett, scared. Lucy Bennett, vulnerable. Lucy Bennett, the delicate flower who needed Adrian's protection. And me? I was the ex-wife, the obstacle, the woman who'd been left behind. She doesn't want me, I said quietly. She wants the satisfaction of knowing she's still winning, even now. Adrian's expression hardened. That's not true. She admires you. She's told me 100 times. I don't care what she's told you. I open my eyes. I'm dying. Adrian, that I don't have enough strength to resent her, to hate her, to feel anything about her at all. I just want to know my son is going to be safe. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'll sign the papers, the house, everything. You name it. Just do the surgery. I looked at the ceiling, white tiles, fluorescent lights, the same ceiling I'd been staring at for 3 weeks now. Oliver needs to go to his grandmother, I said. Not you. I want him with. No. Adrian's voice was sharp. My mother hasn't spoken to me in 10 years. She's not taking Oliver. Then you take him, but you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll be there for him. Really there, not just paying for things, not just showing up when it's convenient. I need to know that when I'm gone, he has someone who will hold him while he cries, someone who will make him feel like he matters. Adrian looked uncomfortable. I'll do my best. That's not enough. Chloe, I know you don't love him the way you should. I know you see him as part of the life you left behind, but he's your son, and he's only 9. Adrian ran a hand through his hair. I'll take care of him. I told you that. Promise me you'll actually love him. The words came out broken. I hated how broken they sounded. Adrian's jaw worked. He looked away toward the window, where the morning sun was just beginning to filter through the blinds. I promise. It was a lie. I could hear it in his voice, but I didn't have the energy to fight. Okay, I said. I'll do the surgery, but I want the paper signed before I go into the OR. The house goes to Oliver. Not to me, not to you, to Oliver. It's the only thing I have to give him. Adrian nodded stiffly. I'll have my lawyer draft it. No, I already have the papers. My lawyer prepared them. I gestured weakly toward the bedside table, where a manila envelope sat, thick and official. Sign them now, in front of a witness. Chloe. Now, Adrian, or we're done. You find another surgeon. He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. The weighing of cost versus benefit. The mental arithmetic of whether it was worth it to him. In the end, he picked up the envelope. The surgery was scheduled for 3 o'clock that afternoon. I spent the next 4 hours sleeping, or trying to. The pain had been getting worse, sharper, more insistent. My oncologist had offered me a hospice bed the previous week, and I'd refused. I wasn't ready, not yet. At noon, Oliver came to visit. He'd been staying with my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. While I was in the hospital, he'd started taking the bus to school by himself. He'd learned how to microwave his own meals. He'd stopped crying in front of me, though I'd seen the evidence on his pillow, the wet patches in the mornings. My 9-year-old son had become a stranger in his own life. Hi, Mom. He climbed onto the bed beside me, careful not to jostle my four. His small body was warm against my side. You look tired. I am tired. I stroked his dark hair, the same color as his father's. But I'll be okay. I just have to do one more surgery, and then... Don't. His voice was quiet but firm. Don't do that thing where you pretend you're fine. I know you're not fine. I looked down at him. His eyes were red-rimmed. He'd been crying again, I could tell. He'd gotten so good at hiding it. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm sorry you have to know that. He pressed his face into my shoulder. I don't want you to do the surgery. I heard Dad talking to someone. I heard him say it was for Lucy. Why are you doing something for her? I didn't have an answer. Not one that would make sense to a 9-year-old. How could I explain that I was selling my last day of strength for the promise of his future? That I was willing to cut myself open one more time, just to make sure he wouldn't be alone? Because I said carefully, if I do this, you get to stay in our house. And Dad is going to take care of you. You won't have to worry about anything. I don't want Dad. I want you. My throat tightened. I know, honey. I know. We lay there in silence for a while. Outside the window, I could hear the sounds of the hospital, the hum of machines, the distant clatter of a gurney, someone laughing in the hallway, normal sounds. Life sounds. I was going to miss them. Mom, Oliver's voice was muffled against my shoulder. Yes. I found a number in your phone. You called it last week, before you got really sick. I stiffened. Oh. Who's Barbara Hayes? I closed my eyes. Barbara Hayes, Adrian's mother, the woman who'd walked out of his life when he was 16 and never looked back. The woman I'd been trying to contact for months, hoping she might be the person who could save my son. I paused. She's your grandmother, your dad's mom. Oliver looked up at me, his eyes sharp. I thought Nana died. Your father lied to you. She's alive. I sighed. She and your father don't speak, but I think she might be someone you could trust. Why would I trust someone I've never met? I touched his cheek. Because she's family, and because I've been writing to her. I don't know if she's gotten my letters, but I've been trying to prepare her. In case I'm not here. Oliver's face crumpled, just for a second. Then he pulled himself together again, an expression I'd grown too familiar with the mask. The smile that meant he was about to fall apart, but wouldn't let himself. You're going to be here, he said. You promised. I promised I would try. He shook his head, burying his face in my chest. That's not the same thing. At 2:30, they came to take me to pre-op. The prep room was cold and sterile. Nurses moved around me, checking vitals, adjusting IVs. I felt like a cadaver already, just waiting for the final transition. Adrian arrived just before they wheeled me in. He looked rumpled, like he'd been running. His tie was crooked. His hair was a mess. For a moment, he actually looked like the man I'd married. Chloe. He stood beside my gurney, his hand hovering over mine. I signed the papers. The house is Oliver's. It's all done. I nodded weakly. Thank you. Is there anything you need? Anything I can do? I looked up at him. This man who'd made me feel invisible. This man who'd chosen a woman half his age over the family we'd built together. This man who'd been so blind to my pain that he'd convinced himself I was lying about my own death. Just promise me, I said, that you'll remember him. Oliver. He's not part of the old life, Adrian. He's your son. He's the best thing you'll ever have, and you don't even know it. Adrian's throat worked. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, the surgical team appeared, ready to take me to the OR. Let's go, someone said. We're running late. Adrian stepped back. His face was pale beneath the fluorescent lights. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw something like pain in his eyes. It didn't matter. The drugs were starting to take effect. The ceiling was sliding by above me, white tiles blurring into indistinct shapes. Goodbye, Adrian, I whispered. He didn't say anything. The surgery was hell. I'd done thousands of procedures over the course of my career. I knew every step by heart. I'd held patients' lives in my hands, kept them from bleeding out, sealed their wounds, sent them home healthy. This time, I was the one breaking. The fibroid was exactly where Lucy's chart said it would be, nestled against the subclavian artery, a thin web of tissue that could tear at any moment. The nurses had to support me from behind while I worked, my hands trembling, my vision swimming. Dr. Richardson, someone said, one of the residents, I couldn't remember her name, I can take over. No, I blinked sweat from my eyes. I'm fine, just give me a minute. I leaned against the table, breathing hard. My chest ached, my bones ached, everything ached. The cancer had spread to my spine the previous month, and the pressure was unbearable. But I kept cutting, kept isolating the tumor, kept stitching the blood vessels closed before they could rupture. It took 4 hours, 0.4 hours of standing when I could barely sit, 0.4 hours of breathing through waves of nausea, and pain, 0.4 hours of watching my life ebb away while I was still technically alive. When it was over, I nearly collapsed. Dr. Richardson, you need to rest. Just get me outside. I need air. 2 residents helped me out of the OR, supporting my weight on either side. The hallway was blessedly empty, quiet, dimly lit. And there was Adrian. He stood by the waiting room doors, his back to me, his phone pressed to his ear. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I saw him laugh. Saw the easy lift of his shoulders, the relaxed set of his posture. He was talking to her, Lucy, the woman I'd just saved. I couldn't breathe, not from the cancer, not from the exhaustion, from the absolute, devastating weight of what I'd just done. I'd burned my last ounce of strength to save the woman who'd taken everything from me. And Adrian didn't even turn around. Chloe, the resident holding my arm, was trembling. Chloe, you need to sit down? Don't. The word came out strange, too soft, too distant. And then the floor rushed up to meet me. I hit the ground hard, my head cracking against the linoleum. There was shouting, footsteps, hands grasping at me. But through the haze, through the blur of white coats and beeping machines, I saw one thing clearly. Adrian turning around. Adrian seeing me on the floor. Adrian taking 1 step, 2 steps toward me. And then a nurse appeared, calling his name. Mr. Morgan? The patient is waking up. Your friend, Lucy. She's asking for you. Adrian stopped, looked at me, looked toward the recovery room. And then he turned away. The last thing I heard before the blackness swallowed me was his voice, cold and dismissive. She's fine. She's always fine. It's just an act. And then nothing. I woke up 3 days later. At least, I think it was 3 days. Time had become slippery, a thing that oozed through my fingers like water. The clock on the wall said Tuesday, but I could have sworn it was still Friday. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, relentless and indifferent, and my body felt like it had been drained of everything except pain. They'd moved me to a private room. That was new. The walls were painted a soft blue, the kind of color designed to be soothing, and someone had left a vase of wilted daisies on the windowsill. The flowers were dying, their petals brown at the edges, and I couldn't help but feel a strange kinship with them. A nurse came in to check my vitals. Her name was Maria, and she had kind eyes and a voice that never rose above a whisper. How are you feeling, Dr. Richardson? I tried to speak, but my throat was sandpaper. She handed me a cup of water with a straw, and I sucked at it greedily. Like I got hit by a truck. I finally managed. Is the patient okay? The one I operated on. Maria's expression flickered. The fibroid was removed successfully. She was discharged 2 days ago. Discharged. I let the words settle over me. Was Adrian there? Did he go with her? Maria looked uncomfortable. She busied herself with my 4, adjusting the flow, checking the connections. I don't know the details, Dr. Richardson, but I heard he took her to some resort. For recovery, somewhere warm. Somewhere warm. While I lay here in this cold, sterile room, with my bones slowly dissolving and my organs shutting down one by one. Somewhere warm, with the woman I'd just saved, the woman who'd been sleeping with my husband. I closed my eyes. The anger was there, but it was distant, muffled, like hearing a scream from underwater. I was too tired to feel it properly. Did anyone come to see me? I asked. Oliver? My son. Maria's face softened. He was here every day, Dr. Richardson. He sat with you for hours. One of the nurses found him asleep in the chair last night with your hand in his. Something in my chest cracked open. Where is he now? One of the volunteers took him to get lunch. He'll be back soon. I nodded, my throat tight. Oliver, my brave, broken little boy. He'd been here every day, watching his mother fade away, and there was nothing I could do to protect him from it. The door opened, and Dr. Harris walked in. He was my oncologist, a thin man with wire-framed glasses and a perpetually worried expression. He'd been with me since the beginning, since the first diagnosis, since the moment I'd looked at my own scans and known exactly what they meant. Chloe. He pulled up a chair and sat beside my bed. How are you feeling? Like I just performed surgery on a woman I hate while dying of cancer. How do you think I'm feeling? Dr. Harris smiled faintly. Still got your sense of humor, I see. Barely. What's the damage this time? The new scans, He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. It's progressing, he said finally. The cancer has spread to your liver. We're seeing new lesions on the left lobe. and there's a small spot on your lung that wasn't there before. I stared at the ceiling. How long? Chloe, don't sugarcoat it, David. I'm a doctor. I know what the numbers mean. Just tell me. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, 2 months, maybe less, maybe a little more if we try a new combination of drugs. No more chemo. I know you hate it. David, I'm 97 pounds. I can barely stand. Chemo isn't going to buy me enough time to matter. It's just going to make my last weeks even more miserable than they already are. David's expression was pained. We could try. No. I said it firmly, even though my voice was barely more than a whisper. I want to go home. I want to spend my last days with Oliver, in my house, in my bed. I don't want to die in a hospital. He didn't argue. He'd known me long enough to know when I'd made up my mind. All right, he said. I'll arrange for hospice care. But Chloe, there's something I need to tell you. His tone made me go still. What is it? Your husband. Ex-husband. I corrected. Your ex-husband, he amended, has been difficult. He came by yesterday while you were sedated. He wanted to know if you were faking. I almost laughed. Faking. He came to my hospital bed and asked if I was faking. He said you'd done this before. Manipulated him with illness. There's a first time for everything, I said bitterly. But I've never faked anything in my life. I've been trying to convince him I'm dying for 18 months, and he still doesn't believe me. David shook his head. I don't know what to tell you, Chloe. I showed him your scans. I showed him the pathology reports. He looked at them, handed them back, and said they could have been faked. I closed my eyes. He's not stupid. He just doesn't want to believe it. Because if he believes it, he has to admit he abandoned a dying woman. He has to admit he chose Lucy over his family. And he can't handle that. He had Oliver with him, David said quietly. The boy was crying, begging him to believe you, and Adrian just ignored him, walked away. Something inside me hardened, a core of steel I'd forgotten I had. What about my messages? I asked. Did anyone respond? I sent a letter to Barbara Hayes before the surgery, Adrian's mother. David looked surprised. You contacted her? Oliver needs somewhere to go. Adrian's never going to be a real father to him. I don't want my son to be alone. I don't know anything about any letter, David said, but I can check with the front desk. Sometimes things get lost. Please. I squeezed his hand weakly. It's the only thing I have left. Oliver came back an hour later. His eyes were red-rimmed, but he was smiling. That terrible brave smile that made me want to scream. Hey, Mom, you're awake. I'm awake, I said. Come here. He climbed onto the bed, his body small and warm against mine. I could feel his ribs through his shirt, feel his heart beating too fast. I was scared, he admitted. They said you might not wake up. I always wake up, honey. I'm too stubborn to stay asleep. He laughed, but it was watery, hollow. You're not going to die, are you? I should have lied. I should have smiled and said of course not, and made him feel better. But I've been lying to him for too long, and I was too tired to keep it up. I'm going to die, Oliver, I said gently. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. His face crumpled. No. I'm sorry. You can't. You promised. I know. I broke my promise. I'm sorry. He started to cry. Silent tears sliding down his cheeks. No sound. Just the awful weight of his grief pressing against me. I held him as best I could, my arms heavy and slow. I don't want to be alone, he whispered. You won't be alone. I've been making arrangements. If everything goes the way I hope, you're going to live with someone who will love you. Someone who will take care of you. Who? He pulled back, his face wet and blotchy. Dad. I shook my head. Your grandmother. Barbara Hayes. She's your father's mother. She lives in Colorado now, but I've been in touch with her. If she got my letters, she's going to come for you. I don't want to go with a stranger. She's not a stranger. She's family. And she'll love you, Oliver. I know it. He looked at me with eyes that were too old, too knowing. But you don't know if she got the letters. I'm going to find out. I smoothed his hair back from his forehead. I promise. Now, tell me what you did today. Did you eat lunch? Did you go to school? He shook his head. I wanted to stay here. Oliver, you need to keep living your life. You can't just sit in this hospital room every day. I don't care about school. I just want to be with you. My heart broke all over again. I know, baby. I know. The next few days blurred together. The pain meds made everything fuzzy, soft-edged, like I was watching my own life from the bottom of a swimming pool. People came and went. Nurses, doctors, the occasional colleague from the surgical department. They all had the same expression, the careful, measured kindness of people who knew they were saying goodbye. But Adrian never came. Not once. Not a phone call, not a text, not a single sign that he remembered I existed. I heard things, though. The nurses talked. They couldn't help it. Hospitals were gossip mills, and my story was too juicy to ignore. Lucy Bennett was recovering well. Adrian had rented an entire beach house for her, some luxury place on the coast with a private pool and round-the-clock nursing care. He'd been photographed carrying her bags, helping her walk, tucking her into bed. She was 22. She was beautiful, and she was the center of his universe. I was his dying wife, and I was invisible. Is it always like this? Maria asked one evening. She was checking my vitals, her voice casual, but I could see the anger underneath. He just abandoned you? He left me a long time ago. I said. The cancer just made it official. That's not fair. You saved her life. You saved Lucy's life. And he doesn't even have the decency to call you and say thank you. I didn't save her for him, I said. I saved her because I'm a doctor and I took an oath. It had nothing to do with Adrian. Bull. I smiled faintly. Language, Maria. I mean it, Dr. Richardson. You should be furious. You should be screaming at him, making him apologize, making him see what he's done. I don't have the energy to be furious. I just want to make sure my son is taken care of. I paused. That letter I sent to Barbara Hayes. Has anyone heard back? Maria frowned. I asked at the front desk. They said there's been no response. No response. The words hit me like a physical blow. She didn't get it, or she got it and didn't care. You don't know that. She walked out on Adrian when he was 16. She hasn't spoken to him in years. Why would she care about a grandson she's never met? Maria didn't have an answer. 5 days after the surgery, I got a visitor I didn't expect. Chloe Richardson. The voice was sharp, brisk, unmistakable. I turned my head toward the door and saw a woman standing there. She was in her late 60s, gray-haired, with piercing blue eyes and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. She wore a tailored navy suit and carried an expensive leather handbag. Do I know you? I asked. No, but you've been trying to reach me. My heart stopped. Barbara Hayes. She walked into the room, her heels clicking against the linoleum, and sat down in the chair beside my bed. She didn't look like I'd expected. I'd pictured someone warm, maternal, soft. This woman looked like she could be CEO of a corporation. I got your letters, she said. All of them. The first one arrived 3 weeks ago. I've been trying to figure out what to do. And I forced the word out. Are you going to help? Oliver needs. Your son is in danger. I stared at her. What? Barbara leaned forward. Her expression was grim, intent. Adrian isn't just ignoring you, Chloe. He's actively trying to get Oliver removed from your custody. He's filed papers with the court claiming you're an unfit mother. He wants to hand the boy over to Lucy to raise. That's not true. He signed papers. I have a signed agreement. I don't know what papers you have, Barbara said, but I know my son, and I know how his mind works. He wants to erase you from existence. Your son is a reminder of the life he left behind, and he's not going to let that stand. He'll get rid of Oliver the same way he got rid of you. I sat up, my body screaming in protest. That's not, he wouldn't. He would, and he's already started the process. I stared at her, my mind reeling. Adrian had been planning this the whole time. The signatures, the promises, the gentle words. All of it had been a lie. He never intended to take care of Oliver. He'd intended to get rid of him. I need to stop him, I said. I need to. You need to stay alive, Barbara said bluntly. That's the only way that if you die, Adrian gets Oliver by default. Your son becomes his property. And trust me when I say, nothing good comes from being my son's property. I lay back against the pillows, my chest heaving. So what do? I can't live forever. I can barely live at all. Barbara sat back in her chair, her eyes cool and assessing. You could fight him, go to court, testify, expose everything he's done, everything he's trying to do. And then what? I'll be dead in 2 months. Adrian will still get Oliver. Barbara was silent for a long moment. Then she said, what if I take him? I blinked. What? Oliver. I'll take him. I'll move him to Colorado, change his name, get him a new identity if I have to. Adrian won't find him. He won't be able to touch him. Why would you do that? You haven't spoken to Adrian in years. You don't even know Oliver. Barbara's eyes flickered with something. Pain, maybe, or regret. I walked out on my son when he was 16, and I told myself it was for the best, that he didn't need me, that he had his father. I was wronged. I left him to be raised by that woman. She spat the word. And I've regretted it every day since, and I'm not making that mistake again. I'm not going to abandon my grandson the way I abandoned my son. I stared at her, searching for the lie, the trick, the catch. I found nothing. Just a hard, uncompromising woman who'd been carrying her own guilt for decades. Can I trust you? I asked. You don't have a choice. She was right. I didn't. Barbara left an hour later. She'd promised to start making arrangements to get Oliver out of the state before Adrian could make his move. She'd promised to protect him no matter what it cost. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. It was fragile, flickering, likely to go out at any moment, but it was there. And then the door opened again, and Adrian walked in. He looked tired, rumpled. His suit was creased, his tie askew. For a moment, he almost looked human. Chloe, he said, I need to talk to you. About what? My voice was ice. About Oliver. About the custody arrangements. I've been thinking. Don't. I held up a hand. Don't say another word. I know what you've been doing, Adrian. I know about the court papers. I know you're trying to take him away from me. Adrian's face went still. Who told you? Does it matter? What matters is that you lied to me. You signed those papers, you promised to take care of him, and the whole time you were planning to get rid of him. That's not true. Don't lie to me. Not now. Not when I'm dying. You owe me at least that much. Adrian's jaw worked. He looked away toward the window, where the sun was setting in a blaze of orange and gold. It's not what you think, he said finally. Lucy, she wants to help. She's willing to take him, to raise him as her own, and she's young. Chloe, she'll be able to give him things I can't. Things you can't. Lucy is 22 years old. She's barely out of college. She doesn't know the first thing about raising a child. She'll learn. She's willing to try. Adrian, I said his name like it was a curse. You're going to let me die, and then you're going to let my son be raised by your mistress. And you think that's okay? You think that's what I want? Adrian's face twisted. What do you want, Chloe? What do you actually want? Because everything you've ever asked for, every single thing, it's never been enough. You wanted me to be something I'm not. You wanted me to love you in a way I couldn't. You wanted to trap me in this perfect little family with your perfect little son, and I couldn't breathe. Then why did you stay? Why didn't you leave me before? Why did you let me believe? Because you are useful. Adrian exploded. Because I needed you to be the perfect wife, the perfect surgeon, the perfect mother that I needed you to make me look good. And you did. You did that beautifully, but that's all it ever was, Chloe, to performance. And I'm tired of performing. I stared at him. The words hit me like physical blows, each one landing in a different part of my chest. Get out, I whispered. Chloe, get out of my room, now. He held my gaze for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he turned and walked out, the door closing behind him with a soft click. I lay in the silence, and I let myself feel it. All of it. The betrayal, the anger, the grief. I let myself feel every single shard of the broken thing that had once been my marriage. And then I reached for my phone. I had a court date to schedule. I didn't sleep that night. The phone felt like a brick in my hand, heavy and cold, as I scrolled through the list of attorneys my lawyer had recommended. Every name blurred together. Every face in my mind melted into Adrian's, that last conversation replaying on an endless loop. Because you're useful. 7 years. 7 years of marriage. And that was how he summed it up. Useful. Like I was a tool he'd picked up and discarded when something shinier came along. At 3 a.m, I finally called Sarah Chin, the only family law attorney I knew who scared me enough to trust her. She picked up on the second ring, her voice crisp and alert despite the hour. Chloe, I was wondering when you'd call. You knew about the court filings? I heard rumors. Adrian's been making noise for weeks, but I didn't want to alarm you until I had confirmation. He's trying to take Oliver. I know. A pause. The good news is you're still alive. As long as you're breathing, you have legal standing. The bad news is you're in a hospital bed and Adrian has deeper pockets than you. I closed my eyes. How do I fight him? You don't. Not directly. He'll bury you in paperwork and motion hearings. Drag this out until you're too exhausted to continue. That's his game. So what do I do? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, you need a guardian ad litem, someone appointed by the court to represent Oliver's best interests. That's your only shot. If you can get a good guardian on your side, one who sees what Adrian really is, you might be able to stop him. Will that be enough? Probably not, but it buys you time. Time. The one thing I didn't have. Sarah. My voice cracked. I'm dying. I have maybe 2 months. I need you to tell me there's a way to make sure Adrian doesn't get him. I need to know Oliver is going to be safe. I can't promise you that, Chloe. The law isn't designed to protect children from parents who are technically competent. Adrian has a job, money, a house. He's not a criminal. He's not a drug addict. He's just a narcissist, and the courts don't punish narcissism. My throat tightened. Then what am I supposed to do? Find someone else. Someone the court will trust. A relative, a close friend, someone who can step in and make a credible case that Adrian is unfit. Do you have anyone like that? I thought of Valerie Hayes, the grandmother who'd walked out on her son 16 years ago and hadn't looked back. The woman who'd shown up at my hospital room with secrets and promises. Maybe, I said. I'm not sure yet. Find out, and find out fast. I got dressed the next morning. It took me 45 minutes to get out of BED, and my legs felt like they belonged to someone else, heavy and uncooperative. My hands shook so badly I couldn't button my own shirt, and a nurse had to help me into the wheelchair. Dr. Richardson, you really shouldn't be doing this, Maria said, her voice thick with worry. I need to see my son. I need to talk to him before. Before what? I didn't answer. I just pointed toward the exit, and Maria pushed me down the hallway. Oliver was in the pediatric ward, waiting for me. He'd been staying with a nurse's family for the past few nights, ever since Adrian had started making noise about custody. I'd been told he was doing well, eating regularly, sleeping through the night. I didn't believe it for a second. When I saw him, I knew I was right. His eyes were hollow, his skin pale. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. Mom. He ran to me, and I pulled him into my lap, feeling his small body shake against mine. Oliver, I need to tell you something. He pulled back, his eyes searching my face. Is it about Dad? Yes. I took a breath. Your father is trying to take you away from me. He's filed papers with the court saying I'm not fit to be your mother. Oliver's face crumpled. That's not true. He's lying. I know he's lying, but he has money, and he has lawyers, and I'm in a hospital bed. There's a good chance he might win. So, what do we do? I smoothed his hair back, trying to find the words. I need you to be brave. I need you to do something that's going to be very hard. What? Your grandmother is going to take you away to Colorado. I've been talking to her, and she's going to keep you safe until this is all over. Oliver's eyes went wide. I don't want to go with her. I want to stay with you. I know, baby. I know. My voice broke. But if you stay here, your father is going to take you, and he's going to give you to Lucy. Do you understand what that means? He nodded slowly, his face pale. She doesn't love you. She doesn't know you. She just wants to erase me. And if your father wins, you're going to be trapped with them for the rest of your childhood. I can't let that happen. So I have to leave. I have to run away. Not run away. Just go somewhere safe. Somewhere your father can't find you. Just for a little while. Oliver looked at me with eyes that were too old, too knowing. But you're not going to be there. You're going to be dead. The words hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. All I could do was hold him and let him cry into my shoulder. I'm sorry, you whispered. I'm so sorry, Oliver. Valerie Hayes came to the hospital that afternoon. She was wearing a different suit this time, charcoal gray, with a scarlet scarf. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her face was set in lines of grim determination. I've made arrangements, she said without preamble. I've got a car waiting. Oliver can leave tonight. Tonight? I was still in my wheelchair, still wearing the same clothes I'd put on that morning. That's so soon. The sooner he's gone, the safer he is. Adrian's already got lawyers circling. If we wait, he'll file an emergency injunction, and the court will freeze everything. We need to move now. I looked at Oliver, who was sitting in the corner, clutching his backpack to his chest. He looked like a soldier going to war, and I hated it. Go to him, Valerie said. Say goodbye. I wheeled myself across the room, my arms shaking with the effort. Oliver didn't move. He just stared at me, his face blank. Oliver, don't say goodbye. His voice was sharp, brittle. If you say goodbye, it means you're not coming back. I reached for his hand. I'm not coming back. You know that. I hate you. He said it like he was trying to make himself believe it. I hate you for leaving me. I hate me too. I squeezed his hand. But I love you more than I hate myself. And I need you to be brave, Oliver. I need you to survive. He was silent for a long moment. Then he threw himself into my arms, his small body shaking with sobs. I don't want to go, he whimpered. Please, Mom. Please don't make me go. Oliver, I need you. I can't do this without you. I held him tighter, and for a moment I didn't feel the pain. I didn't feel the weight of the cancer, or the weight of my failure, or the weight of the life I was leaving behind. All I felt was him. I love you, I whispered. I have loved you since the moment you were born, and I will love you for the rest of your life, even when I'm gone. Do you understand that? He nodded against my chest. Now go with your grandmother, and when this is all over, when you're safe, you come find me. You come find me in the sky, or in the wind, or wherever I am, and you tell me about your life. You tell me everything. You promise me that, Oliver. I promise. I love you. Never forget that. He pulled away, his face wet with tears. Then he took a breath, squared his shoulders, and walked to Valerie. Valerie looked at me over his head, her expression unreadable. I'll take care of him. I know. I forced the words out. Thank you. She nodded once, curtly. Then she took Oliver's hand and led him out the door. He didn't look back. I didn't want him to. The room felt cold and empty after they left. I sat in my wheelchair, staring at the door, and I let myself feel the grief. IT came in waves, each one worse than the last. I just sent my son away, and my only child. The only good thing I'd ever done in my life. And I'd never see him again. The door opened, and I looked up, expecting Maria or one of the other nurses. But it was Lucy Bennett. She walked in like she owned the place, her heels clicking against the linoleum, her makeup perfect, her hair styled. She looked like she'd just stepped out of a magazine, and I hated her with every fiber of my being. Chloe, she smiled, but there was nothing warm about it. How are you feeling? What are you doing here? I wanted to talk to you about Oliver. I felt my hackles rise. He's gone. You missed him. Gone? Gone where? I smiled, a thin, brittle thing. Somewhere you'll never find him. Somewhere Adrian will never find him. He's safe, Lucy, and you'll never touch him. Lucy's smile faltered. Chloe, don't call me that. You don't get to call me that. She took a step closer. Her expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the anger underneath. Adrian is going to be furious. Adrian can go to hell. He gave you everything, Chloe. He gave you a home, a life, a child, and you're trying to destroy him. I'm not trying to destroy him. I'm trying to save my son. Lucy's face twisted. Your son? You think that boy is yours? He's Adrian's. He's always been Adrian's. You just borrowed him. I stared at her, my vision swimming. What did you just say? You heard me. Oliver has nothing to do with you. He's Adrian's child, and now that you're dying, he's coming back to his father. That's the way it works. That's the way it's always worked. Something inside me snapped. I stood up. I don't know how. My legs were worthless, my body was screaming, but I stood up, and I walked toward her. Get out, I said. Get out of my room. Lucy took a step back, her eyes widening. Chloe, I said get out. She ran. I watched her go, and when the door slammed shut behind her, I collapsed back into my wheelchair. I was shaking. My heart was pounding, but I was still here, still alive, still fighting. That night, I called Dr. Harris. David, I said, I need you to be honest with me. How long do I actually have? He hesitated. Chloe, we've already discussed. How long, David? A few weeks, maybe a month. The cancer is spreading faster than we anticipated. The liver lesions are growing, and there's a new spot on your... Stop. I held up a hand. I don't need the details. I just need the timeline. 3 weeks, maybe 4, not more than that. 3 weeks. I let the word sink in. That's not enough time to win a custody battle. No, it's not. But it's enough time to make Adrian's life a living hell. David's brow furrowed. Chloe, I'm going to fight him, I said. I'm going to take him to court. I'm going to expose everything he's done, everything he's tried to do. And I'm going to make sure the whole world knows what kind of man he really is. Chloe, your health. To hell with my health. I've got 3 weeks. I'm going to spend them doing something that matters. The next morning, I started making phone calls. I called Sarah Chun, and I gave her a list of everything I knew about Adrian's affairs, the financial improprieties, the emotional abuse, the way he'd abandoned his dying wife and tried to steal her child. Sarah listened to it all, her silence growing heavier with each revelation. This is good, she said finally. This is very good. But Chloe, you need to be prepared for the worst. What do you mean? Adrian has resources. He'll fight back. He'll say you're making it all up, that you're bitter and vindictive. He'll drag your name through the mud. I don't care what he does to my name. I'm going to be dead in 3 weeks. Sarah laughed, a short, bitter sound. That's the spirit. I called the hospital administrator and requested copies of all my medical records that I called the court and asked for an emergency hearing that I called the media. Not the big outlets, not the ones that would only care about the scandal. I called the local newspaper, the one that still covered stories about real people. And then I called Adrian. He picked up on the second ring, his voice guarded. Chloe, I wasn't expecting you to call. I'm sure you weren't. Is there something you need? Yes. I took a breath. I need you to know that I'm going to destroy you. A long silence. I don't think you're in a position to destroy anyone, Chloe. You're in a hospital bed. You're dying. You have no power. You'd be surprised what a dying woman with nothing to lose can do. I'm not going to engage with this. If you want to talk about Oliver, I don't want to talk about Oliver. I want to talk about you, about how you slept with your wife's nurse while she was dying, about how you tried to take her child, about how you've been lying, stealing, manipulating for years, and about how the world is going to find out every single detail. Adrian laughed. It was a cold, hollow sound. You think anyone's going to believe you? I think I've got the medical records to prove I'm dying, and I've got the bank statements to prove you've been funneling money into a secret account. I've got the emails you sent to your lawyers, trying to keep Oliver's case sealed, and I've got everything, Adrian, and I'm going to use it. Chloe. Goodbye, Adrian. I hung up, and for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. The hearing was scheduled for next Wednesday. 3 days away. 3 days to gather my strength, to prepare my case, to make sure the court knew exactly what kind of man Adrian Morgan really was. But before the hearing, I had one more thing to do. I called Valerie Hayes. She's safe, Valerie said without preamble. I've got her in a safe house, no records, no paper trail. Adrian will never find her. Her, I blinked. Oliver. You mean Oliver? I mean her. Valerie's voice was tight. Chloe, I don't know how to tell you this, but Oliver isn't a boy. She's a girl. I stared at the phone. What? Oliver has been hiding it for years. She told me the night we left. She's been terrified her father would find out. She said you knew. I shook my head, my mind reeling. No. I didn't know. I never knew. Well, she told me. She said it was the only way she could survive. She said if her father ever found out, he would. Valerie's voice broke, and in that moment, I understood. Adrian would have rejected her, I said. He would have disowned her. He's always been so obsessed with appearances, with being the perfect family. He never would have accepted. He would have destroyed her, Valerie said, and she knew it, so she hid. I closed my eyes. Am my child, am my beautiful, brave child. All those years, I thought she was just quiet, just shy, just struggling to connect, but she'd been carrying this secret her whole life. And she'd been carrying it alone. I need to talk to her, I said. She's not ready. She's afraid you'll be disappointed. Disappointed? I laughed, and it came out broken. I'm not disappointed. I'm Valerie, she's my child. She's always been my child, and I love her, no matter what. Valerie was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I'll tell her. Tell her I'm coming. I don't care how sick I am. I'm coming to see her, even if it's the last thing I do. I left the hospital that night, against medical advice, against every rational instinct I had. I left my bed, my monitors, and I walked out into the night with a cane in one hand and a handful of painkillers in my pocket. A nurse saw me leaving and tried to stop me. I told her to let me go. She did. The cab ride took 45 minutes. Valerie had sent me the address, a small house in the suburbs, nondescript and anonymous. When I got there, the door was open. Oliver was waiting inside. She looked different. Her hair was longer than I remembered, tucked behind her ears. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and she was twisting her hands nervously. Mom, she said. Oliver. I crossed the room slowly, my body screaming with every step. Can I hug you? She nodded, and I pulled her into my arms. She was taller than I remembered, thinner, but her heart was beating against mine, fast and strong. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have told you sooner. Don't apologize. You were protecting yourself. That's not something to be sorry for. But you're sick. You've been sick, and I was hiding, and now you're going to die, and I never told you who I really was. I pulled back and looked at her. My daughter, my child. I love you, I said. I have loved you since the moment you were born. I have loved you through every single thing you've ever done, and I will love you for the rest of my life, no matter what. She started to cry, and I held her, and I let myself cry too. There, in that tiny house, in the middle of the night, I said goodbye to my child. But I also said hello. Valerie drove me back to the hospital the next morning. I was in more pain than I'd ever been in my life. Every breath was a battle. Every heartbeat was a war. But I was still here, still fighting. Chloe, Valerie said as we pulled into the parking lot, you should know something. Adrian's been arrested. I stared at her. What? EMT fraud. He's been billing for procedures that never happened, taking money from the hospital, funneling it into a private account. The FBI got involved yesterday. He's being held without bail. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I don't know how it happened, Valerie continued, but someone tipped them off. Someone with inside knowledge of his financial records. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw something like respect in her eyes. Chloe, she said, did you do this? I smiled. It was the first real smile I'd felt in months. I told you, I said, a dying woman with nothing to lose is the most dangerous person in the world. Valerie laughed, and for a moment, I felt like I could win. I felt like I could survive. Even if survival meant something different than I'd ever imagined.